Welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow. Today I'm covering my final strategy. So in this 4-part series. So if you missed the other 2-3 parts to it, please go back and watch the last couple of weeks where we're going to talk about the overall strategy, where then we went in depth about set and forget. We went in depth about undervalued properties. We talked about, now we're going to talk about uplift properties. So I'm going to share with you a range of uplift properties that we've done. I'm going to share with you some of the properties, what it is trending now. So you get to see a few years before, just a few years now. And I'm going to share with you the journey that we went through and what we're currently doing right now. So I always say that if you are going to be a buyer's agent, which is what we are, we're a specialist buyer's agency boutique in the commercial property space. If we're going to be an educator, a buyer's agent, we have to be walking the talk. So everything I'm going to teach you, all of my videos, things we have done, everything I've done there, shared are all live and all stories that either our clients, our colleagues, or things that we've got direct information from. So I want to share with you today some of these properties. So the thing about uplift properties is you buy the property when it's partially vacant, then you tenant it, and then you create the uplift, right? So the first time we did this was about 2017. So I'm going to show you my first deal. So then you get to see that, you know, I'm not just on a YouTube video, I'm actually showing you the real thing. So this is the first deal we bought, and you can see sold in 2nd of June 2017. So this property is in Kurri Kurri. For those of you who don't know where Kurri Kurri is, it's actually about 20 minutes outside of Newcastle. And you can see that 20 minutes outside of Newcastle, what we're seeing here is that we're seeing that the area is gentrifying a lot because the property prices there are probably still 200,000 to 300,000, so very, very affordable compared to Newcastle, which is twice or sometimes more than that. So people can live here and still work in Newcastle. People can set up here and still be, you know, doing contractor work in Newcastle. So you can set up an accountant's office, you can set up a lawyer's office, you can set up anything you want in that area, and then you can still be working in Newcastle. So this is where we're looking. So this is the property itself. We bought it vacant except for one ATM, and so inside you can see it's not flash, it's not beautiful. The carpet's probably okay, but everything else probably needed a facelift. So then the other side looked much better, and we can see the back is a little bit old, a little bit dilapidated, that you need it to be fixed. But it's in that main street of Kurri Kurri, so near this roundabout as well. So that's what the front of it looks like at this point in this property. So just so that you get to know this, we bought it with just the ATM. So vacant possession, just the ATM. So I can share with you what we did was that it has one shop which has open plan with 3 offices, and then we've got shop 2, which is 7 meters, and one's a little bit bigger than the other, which has the ATM. So that's the ATMs on this side, on the side nearest to the roundabout. And then we've got the residential 1-bedroom flat at the back. And so we've got an ATM license of 6 years and 7,500. Now, with all properties that has a residential attachment, you will know that that property is absolutely going to be run down, so you have to refurbish the residential. So we have done that. So what we have done is we have refurbished it, and I want to share with you a new, I want to share with you this, this is the street view. So this is what it looks like now. So it's got the ATM. We have a sort of a tenant in there that is in that beauty, health, sort of that does a little bit of holistic healing and all of that stuff that's in there at the moment. Now, we've had a couple of change of tenants in the time we've owned it. First, we had a bargain shop that went through that didn't work out, and now we've got a new set of tenants. We have complete planning solutions, so they're town planners. They moved from another spot to this spot, and so they absolutely love this place. They actually did their own fit out. We actually gave them really, really good rent because we were trying to fill the tenancy. So we filled half of the tenancy. We did a little bit of refurbishments, so not a huge amount of refurbishment. We have done a little bit of refurbishments, but mainly our refurbishments were at the back of the building. So we actually refurbished the residential. So the normal thing I look at is when you look at something like this, you spend somewhere between 10 to 15% of the purchase price on the property. So we spent about 50K on the property in and out, like gutting the back, giving some tenant incentives, refurbishing it, and everything else. Now we got it tenanted. So right now, including the ATM, that property is yielding. The property is doing about $52,000 net right? So after outgoings, as we get each of the tenants in there, so each proportion of the commercial tenants, they started to pay their outgoings. So that's why we then started to offset some of the outgoings. So when we first started coming through, it was the holding cost plus we had the outgoings. But as soon as we get tenants, the outgoings were offset. We're only paying a little bit for the tenant at the back, and we managed to able to get it rented out at the back, and they were getting about 150, 170. By the time we refurbished it, we ended up getting the tenant at the back about $300 a week. So it's transformed that. So it took us about 12 months to get it right. About 18 months started really getting the cash flow coming into this deal. Now, this is interesting because I want to share with you that recently, just down the road, down the road at 157 Lang Street has just come up for sale. And I want to share with you this because when you look at it, you can see that it's just down the road. So, it's in a nice little neat little spot. Look, it's smaller than the one we have. But it's neat and tidy, and they're obviously long-term tenants. At the back is not looking too flash. In fact, there's still loads of carpet tiles and lots of storage. This is an area potentially could do some extensions to, and obviously there's parking internally, but you might later on change that into something else. So we've got the garage there, we've got the back room. Yes, you could probably, if you were doing the tenants in this one, you could probably have the tenants at the front, and then you could have the store change the tenant into a one-bedroom or something at the back and do a bit of an extension. But you'll have to be able to move the bathrooms or the sinks to another bathroom here for the tenant. So the tenant, you can then have dual tenancy. But look, so this is what it looks like. But guess what they want for this property? They want $399,000 for it, and the tenant is currently willing to pay market rent of $22,000. So this is being sold on a 5% yield. Now, if I was to look at that property we did, which was 462 in 2017, we did spend about 50K or so on it. There's some tenant incentives on there, and let's say we paid the commission on that property, and let's say that all up, everything cost us $600,000 for that property. Today, a tenant that is paying $52,000 worth of inside and outside of that tenant, and if it's selling at even a 5.5%, it's worth somewhere around $900,000. That's a massive jump. That's like a 50% increase from the time we owned it to the time of doing it up, spending the 1 year doing it up, and then reaping the benefits of it for the last 3 years. Now, because that was so good, we are going to rinse and repeat that. So this is what I recently have under contract, and this is what we call a pure uplift property, right? So this is in Gordonvale, so somewhere totally different, but the thing is, it's 20 minutes from Cairns. Just like Kurri is 20 minutes from Newcastle, this is 20 minutes from Cairns. Old NAB building, the previous one we bought was an old Newcastle Union building. It has the ATM, $7,500 in rent, 3 year by 3 year lease, because at the moment ATMs are exiting, so 3 year by 3 year lease. We've got this property potential to be divided into two, so we're going to spend a little bit more on this because it needs to be carved up where the other one's already carved up. It's got the signage on the top, which is great. Sort of going through, doesn't have the same exposure as you would the other one. It just doesn't have the same layout as such because it doesn't have exposure at the back, so you can't really extend it to create it's got a courtyard, but you can't really extend it to create, I guess, the one-bedroom apartment that you would in the Kurri one that you could in this one. But look, it's professional office space. It's at the moment, it's in a neat condition. We just need to gut it and bring it back to bare shell. Look, the back is not something that's usable, but look, if it was to become a food tenant, then they can use the back of it. If it wasn't a food tenant, then you can always divide that into two, leaving the bathroom as common area for both of them. So that's where the property is, and that's what we're looking to do. So we're buying this property for $605,000, so a little bit more. And look, some of the major developments. So looking at Gordonvale, this is development inside Woolies. The really interesting things to look at comparable rents when you do this. Inside Woolworths, when in that complex of development, they're asking for $1,000 per square meter for rent. Here outside, this is $200 roughly, maybe $250 at most per square meter for rent. So what we're going to try to achieve here is roughly a 60, it's about a 10% net. So if I'm buying for $605, I want a $60,000 net rent after all my expenses. And that's really what I'm aiming for. And what that would do is that would translate to probably the value of the property in this current market, somewhere between, around maybe 850,000. But holding it for a year, letting the yield compress, letting the market let the market continue to grow for a little bit, the property could, in time, you never know, 2-3 years time, be worth $1 million. Refinance it, do it again, right? That is your equity. That's manufactured equity, and from there you can rinse and repeat, and you continuously to do that. So there are some of the ideas there. But one of the things I thought I could talk to you about is, maybe some of these things about re-tenancy. So I want to share with you this property here. And so this property is a property to re-tenant. So this property is one of these things that come up and I look for, whereas a short lease, the lease is about to end in 3 or 4 months time, and that means I can buy it in without being GST exempt, which is important because no one, if you're buying a $500,000 property, you don't want to be coming up with $50,000 as GST, right? That's a lot of money. So having tenants like that is still there makes it GST exempt, and because it's GST exempt, it makes it easier for you to actually then buy it, re-tenant it, and use it for later on. So as you can see here, we've got the Rise here. It is basically a Pilates studio. So this is a property in the ACT. And look, I've taken you everywhere. I've taken you from New South Wales. I've taken you to New South Wales. I've taken you to Queensland, and I'm taking you back to ACT. You can do uplift projects almost anywhere, but you've got to know the metrics. And this is where, in the last few years, because we've been doing it ourselves, we've really become proficient in it. So this is a property. It's next door to a massage complex, and Greenways is quite populated with lots and lots of different tenants. So the main thing here is to look through this and see what we've got here in terms of what you can do with the fit out. You see the floor is quite nice, so if we can leave the floor where it is, if the air conditioning is good, can we partition this into 2, or can we just have it as one space where we can create office spaces and make it quite welcoming? So it's quite a simple space, and one of the options for this is actually just pure re-tenanting, right? They're asking $495, obviously negotiable because it's vacant. Parking spaces, it's got lots of residential there. At the moment, it's got tenants expiring in January 2022. So again, a really good option. So one of the things, if you can't get a 7% or 7.5% or even 6% right now in metro areas, a high yielding property, one of the things you should do is get a vacant property, re-tenant it, get much higher yield, and then you'll be able to reap the reward of the equity and pull out and redo it again. And that's a simple way. When you're looking at a property like that in ACT, it's a set and forget property, but it needs a re-tenanting. But don't do this deal if it means that you are going to buy vacant, tenant it, and you're not going to sit above market in your yield. Then there's pointless for you to take on the risk. You only take on the risk if the reward is worth it at the end. But you're going to need hand holding through this because it is scary during re-tenanting. And it's scary when you have a vacant property. It is, you need to make sure the metrics hits, and you also need to know the area and do a lot of research. So if this is a strategy you're interested in, and this is a strategy you want to get into, do reach out to me, helen@commercialpropertycashflow.com.au or helentarrant.com. Let's get on the strategy call. Let's talk about your commercial property journey, how we can help you create wealth through commercial property. And answer any of your questions on commercial, anything you want me to cover off in other videos, post it down there in the chat box. Let me know what you want so I can cover that off, who you want me to speak to in this industry, and let's make you some passive income. So reach out to me, helentarrant.com, click the link, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.